The night the question was asked, it didn't sound romantic. It sounded fragile. It sounded like something that might break if answered too quickly. The janitor's cart squeaked as it stopped in the hallway outside the executive floor, the lights humming above like they always did, unaware that one sentence, spoken through quiet tears, was about to change two lives that had been running on parallel tracks without ever touching. Stay with this moment, because what began as an awkward pause between a single dad janitor and a powerful CEO would unravel secrets, fears, and courage neither of them knew they were carrying. He had learned to move quietly. Not just because his job required it, but because life had taught him that quiet people survive longer. Adam Reyes pushed the cart gently, careful not to let the mop bucket clatter. It was late, later than usual, and the building felt hollow, like it was holding its breath. Most people were gone. The elevators slept. The city lights outside the glass walls blinked like tired eyes. Adam should have been home, helping his 8-year-old daughter with spelling words before bed, listening to her stories about school that always ended with a question he never quite knew how to answer. Do you think Mom would be proud of us? Adam was a single father, a janitor by necessity, a dreamer by habit, and a man who carried his grief the way others carried keys, always in his pocket, always reminding him it was there. His wife had passed away 3 years earlier, suddenly, unfairly, leaving him with a little girl who still slept with one foot outside the blanket like her mother used to. Since then, Adam had learned how to braid hair, how to cook meals that looked better than they tasted, and how to pretend he wasn't exhausted every single day. That night, as he reached the end of the executive hallway, he heard something that made him stop, crying, not the loud kind. Not the dramatic kind. It was restrained, controlled, the kind of crying done by someone who hated crying but couldn't stop it anymore. It came from the corner office, the largest one in the building. The CEO's office. Adam froze. He wasn't supposed to be there yet. He could come back later. He could turn around. He could pretend he heard nothing. That's what people like him usually did when people like her were involved, but the crying didn't stop. So he knocked. It was a soft knock, barely more than a tap. For a moment, there was only silence. Then a voice, unsteady and surprised. Yes. Adam opened the door slowly. The lights were dim. Papers were scattered across the desk. And behind it sat Eleanor Wright, the CEO of the company, the woman whose name was spoken with a mix of admiration and fear in every department. She was known for her sharp mind, her impossible standards, her perfectly tailored suits, and her complete emotional distance, except tonight, her mascara was smudged. Her shoulders were shaking. She looked smaller somehow, like the weight of the building had finally pressed down on her all at once. I'm sorry, Adam said quickly. I can come back later. She looked up, and in that moment, something shifted. She didn't see a janitor. She didn't see an employee. She saw a man standing there with concern on his face, a man who wasn't afraid of her power, because he had already faced something worse, loss. No, she said, her voice breaking. Please, don't go. Adam hesitated, then stepped inside. He closed the door gently behind him. They stood there, separated by a desk and a lifetime of differences. Silence stretched between them, uncomfortable and heavy. I didn't mean for anyone to see me like this, Eleanor said finally, wiping her face with the back of her hand. I'm not usually like this. Adam nodded. Most people aren't. Until they are. That was when she laughed, a short, broken sound that turned into another wave of tears. She covered her face, embarrassed. I don't even know why I'm crying, she said. I run a company with thousands of employees. I negotiate million-dollar deals without blinking. And yet here I am, falling apart because, she stopped, because you're human, Adam said quietly. She looked at him again, really looked at him this time. What's your name? She asked. Adam. Adam, she repeated, like she was testing the sound of it. Do you ever feel like no matter how much you achieve, it's never enough? He smiled sadly. Every day. Something in her expression changed. The wall cracked. They talked. Not about work. Not about titles. About loneliness. About expectations. About the pressure to be strong when all you want is to rest. Adam didn't mention his wife at first. Eleanor didn't mention her childhood at all. But the space between them shrank, not physically, but emotionally. Then she stood up, walked around the desk, and surprised him with a question that didn't belong in a boardroom. Will you be my date tonight? Adam blinked. I'm sorry. She took a breath, steadied herself. Not a romantic date. Not anything complicated. Just dinner. I don't want to go home alone tonight. And I don't want to sit across from someone who wants something from me. Adam thought of his daughter. Of the babysitter he'd already arranged because of the late shift. Of how tired he was. Of how unexpected life could be. Okay, he said, that decision would ripple through everything. The next evening didn't feel real. Adam wore his cleanest shirt, the one he saved for parent-teacher meetings. Eleanor met him outside the building, not in a power suit, but in a simple dress, her hair loose. They looked like two people who didn't belong together, and yet, somehow did. Dinner was awkward at first. Then warm. Then honest. Adam talked about his daughter, Sophia. About learning to be both parents. About the fear of failing someone who depended on him completely. Eleanor listened, truly listened, like no one had listened to him in years. She talked about growing up invisible. About working twice as hard to prove she deserved her position. About how success had given her everything except peace. They didn't touch. They didn't promise anything. But when they said goodnight, something unspoken lingered. The challenges came quickly, rumors spread. People noticed the CEO spending time with a janitor. Whispers turned sharp. Adam felt eyes on him at work. Eleanor faced pressure from the board, subtle but relentless. Perception matters, they said. Image matters. Adam considered stepping back. For her sake. For his daughter's. But Eleanor surprised him again. I didn't work this hard to let fear decide my life, she said. And I won't let it decide yours either. Still, life tested them. Sophia struggled at school, afraid Adam would leave like her mother had, afraid happiness was temporary. Eleanor stumbled too, learning how to be vulnerable, how to not lead every conversation like a meeting. They argued. They doubted. They grew. The night Adam's daughter finally smiled at Eleanor without fear, the night Eleanor admitted she didn't need to be strong all the time, the night Adam realized he wasn't just surviving anymore, he was living. The question that once sounded fragile became a foundation. Will you be my date tonight? Turned into, will you stay? Turned into, will you build a life with me? Turned into something stronger than titles and grief and fear, and the message that carried them forward was simple, but powerful. Sometimes the most important moments happen when the masks come off. Sometimes love doesn't arrive loudly, it whispers through tears in a quiet hallway, and sometimes, the person who changes your life is the one you almost walked past.